You're listening to the Devil Dog Talk Show.
This show contains explicit material and is recommended for ages 18 and older for mature audiences only. But hey, it's the internet.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Devil Dog Talk Show. Today we got a great show for you. It's with Tyler Hoover of Antihero podcast. And I'm really excited to get to the who, what, where, and why for them and with them about how they started and where they come from and why. It is a very revealing show, a very motivating show, and a very inspiring show. However, we do discuss something about a certain individual that would benefit of the for me to say, hey, we reached out, everybody that has a question on whether or not we do that kind of thing. Yes, I reach out to people if we cover individuals and whether or not there would be a public opinion about that to just cover all our ends with journalistic integrity. Everybody is aware of the topics being conversed as well as the individuals discussing them. There is a absolute support and a desire for everybody to win, okay? Nobody's over there saying that they don't wish for anybody to be successful, and the individual even wishes everybody the best of luck and the greatest of all successes. So I just wanted to say that before we get into this episode, and that I really, truly appreciate all the opinions being shared with Tyler and Brent over there at the Antihero podcast, because without speaking up and standing on what you believe in your perspective, we would never get the opportunity of freedom of speech. You know, we have to actually live freedom of speech, and everybody gets freedom of speech, whether we're wrong, whether we're right, or whether or not it's something that people may not understand why it's true or why it's different from what they understand. So again, this episode is dedicated to all those out there, the first responders and our nation's heroes, the ones who put their life on the line day one, every morning and every evening and every night to make sure we get to rest in peace, kind of, not dead though, but rest in a peaceful society and get to live a good life. So thank you for listening, liking, and sharing. And again, listen, like, and share to the Devil Dog Talk Show. All right, everybody, welcome to the Devil Dog Talk Show this glorious Monday morning. We got an amazing guest today. We got Tyler Hoover. Yeah, you know him. He's from the Antihero podcast. And today we're going to introduce him a bit to our listeners and our audience and just expand a bit about his podcast and what he's got going on and how he ended up in this space. So let's say good morning. Hey, good morning, Tyler.
Hey, what's up, man? Thanks for having me.
Well, thanks for being on, man. I really appreciate it. I really do. So how is it that, let's go ahead and just have you introduce yourself actually a bit. That would be best.
Yeah, for sure. My name's Tyler Hoover. I'm an Army infantry vet turned street cop turned podcaster. That's probably the simplest way to do it.
That was solid. Awesome. So how did you, where are you from? And let's get a little bit of background on you here. Because our listeners, you know, they probably have heard of you, right? And or your podcast for sure, because I think I've shared quite a bit of it. I noticed that you guys do things in a different way. And I was like, hey, man, I got to get a hold of this fucking guy, because you guys do shit in a way that's very roughneck, very, very in your face approach towards not just covering what you're discussing, but also how you react to things. You know, it's one of those things that I find refreshing in the space of podcasting, because you guys go at it with a no fear attitude. And that's something that I respect and I honestly look up to. You know, it's kind of a great role model type of situation to emulate right now, especially with the way the world's going, for men and women and those of the like, to just kind of stand up and say, what the fuck? What the fuck is this shit? You know? And I reached out to Tyler, and Tyler has a great show going on out there, Antihero podcast. And yeah, man, since then we had a great conversation and we wanted to bring him on and have a little bit more. So since you got that going, what made you join the Army, and how did that come about going on?
Yeah, I grew up in Roanoke, Virginia, which is a pretty quiet town. I remember I was 19. I didn't have really much going for me. I was failing community college. And one day, I remember I was working and I was dropping off something for work to another job. And I looked at the TV and I saw that, I don't know, Army or Marines, but it was pretty, they were showing KIAs on the news. Like they were killed in combat. And I remember thinking, like, the fuck am I doing, dude? Like, I'm a loser. So I initially tried joining the Marines like that next week. but I have a tattoo that runs all up and down my shoulder, and it comes out on my neck, and it pokes out the PT shirt. And believe it or not, I couldn't join the Marines because of that tattoo. So the
Damn.
Army recruiter down the hall was like, "Hey, we'll take you." So
they're usually pretty good with that, you know?
yeah, so I signed a contract to ship out within 30 days, and got a little bit of a bonus, and I was off. That was it.
That's solid, dude. What year was this about?
2007. 2007 is when I joined. Yeah.
Wow, dude. That's a time, dude. That was damn. You're giving me a flashback right now. That was a time, dude. 2007 was an amazing year. Oh, wow. Shit. That was a great year for me. All right. So you joined the Army. What did you come in as? Was it, you said infantry, right?
Yeah. I wanted to be infantry, so that in the Army you get to. I mean, no, I'm not making jabs at Marines or anything, but you get to pick your jobs in the Army. So I picked infantry, and I figured, why go to war if you're not going to go to war? So, to me, infantry, medics, maybe some artillery, but other than that, there's not a lot of jobs that are guaranteed to go to war, so.
No, that's a very true statement. And most people try to avoid that. So that's something I also really, really respect, because it's one of those things you join for the right reasons. You want to make a difference in the world. You want to serve your country. Some people just want to, canoe fucking skulls and shit, but which is still good. But I think the primary goal is trying to do whatever it is and whatever it takes to actually make an impact, right? So seeing those KIAs probably motivated you more than most. And then in 2007, it was a year just about 6 months after I got home from Iraq, because I was in Iraq 06 in Al Qaim. That's crazy, dude. That's fucking nuts. So you joined specifically to become infantry grunt, right? How did your path kind of develop from there?
I didn't know anything about SOF or anything like that, or to advance my military career. I just wanted infantry. Kind of knew I was going to be done. I went to infantry, like OSUT infantry training in the Army, and then I went to airborne school, and then I got stationed in Fort Bragg, North Carolina, with the 82nd Airborne Division.
Solid.
And then within about 6 months, I think we deployed to Baghdad, and I did my deployment in Baghdad, and then I came home, and then we were guaranteed to be at home for 2 years, which nobody wanted. That was actually like a punishment. We had to be a global readiness response, so we could deploy anywhere in the world in 18 hours. That's where the 82nd gets its bread and butter. So we got selected for that. And after, I was like, I don't want to do that. So I let my 4-year contract run up, 4.5-year contract, and then I got out.
So when you got out, did you have a plan at that point, or were you just kind of like, hey, this is the next chapter of my life?
No, man, I didn't know it at the time. I was kind of letting Jesus take the wheel. But if it feels good, I roll with it, even if I don't have a plan. And I knew that I knew I needed to get out. But I obviously, like every vet does, man, they just, oh shit, they go to school. Because they still get guaranteed GI Bill money and VA money.
That's
So
true.
I
That's
ended
true.
up going to school, doing really well. Graduated magna cum laude at my university, and I got a degree in Homeland Security and Terrorism Studies. Yeah, that's what I did after the Army.
So what is that degree like? Like that sounds really fucking intense. I'm not saying that you're selling yourself short here because you go, I'm a street cop, and then here's this fucking degree. I'm like, bro, are you fucking like John Wick over here? Fucking what the?
It's a very specific degree program that I didn't realize I wasn't going to use. Also, looking back, I don't believe anybody. I wouldn't I wouldn't recommend that degree program to people, because if you're going to work for the government, they don't give a shit what kind of degree you have. They just want you to have a degree. If you're going to work in the private sector, they want you to have specific degrees towards what you're going to be doing. And no, not much of the private sector is going to be terrorism studies and Homeland Security. So that being said, I wish my 4-year degree was in marketing, business ownership, something along those lines, which is what I'm doing now, and I'm having to figure out on my own with no formal training.
Mm-hmm.
So even engineering, something I could use today. Like audio engineering, that would have been nice.
Right?
But my high speed ass wanted to go get terrorism in my degree program.
You know what though? That's cool. You can take the same tactics, go in there and fucking really kill all the ums and uhs and all that shit when you learn a little bit more about audio engineering, and feel so happy about it when you do.
Yeah.
It's so boring. I'm not gonna lie to you. Okay, like there's so many different software programs that you can get nowadays, and it's pretty much getting rid of audio engineers to begin with. But no, it's one of those tricks of the trade, and I really appreciate that because you do see the value in audio engineering and of course, video, videography and stuff like that. Because your guys' show is done very well, quite rapidly. And so I'm excited clearly to get to that point, but I want to really structure the story well. So after you get your degree, okay, in counter anti all the terrorisms, what was the next steps for you? Did you just went straight into being a police officer? Was there another academy, or how does that work?
Well, that's the same thing. I was in my last semester in college, and I was like, "Oh shit, I have to figure out what I'm going to do next." So I had a little bit left on my GI Bill, and that covered the police academy here. So I didn't choose to go federal because of family ties. I have a son here in Florida, and I didn't want to be at needs of the federal government. So most of my peers in college went federal to one of the ABC organizations or Intel or something. Even the private sector, there's a lot of intelligence for the private sector. And I was like, you know what? I just became a cop. So I went to the police academy for 6 months, and then I was a cop in the Daytona area for about 3 years, and now I'm a cop in the Orlando area. I've been for about the last 5 years, so 8 years total.
That's so interesting, man. Like I really have such a deep respect for police officers, but it doesn't come from I would say some would say current perspective. My father was a correctional officer my whole life, right? And everybody in the police forces and law enforcement, it's kind of like the branches of service. Everybody jabs each other. But when it comes to it, the job is the job, right? It's law enforcement. You got to set a better example. You got to have a higher standard. I think military does a great job to prepare and also kind of reinforce that and also be a part of that. But I have such a deeper respect for it because that's where I really connected with you specifically, your perspective from the first episode you did on the Antihero podcast. It was like watching a cherry pop, bro. I was like, dude, this guy, he's got some talent. He's reaching for shit that most people are like trying to hide, those inner fears, those little insecurities. And you're just like, blah, right on the table. Here's my cack. Here we go. This is how big it is. But that's what I love, man. So, all right. So 8 years police officer, you did the academy, right? Okay. So you're in Daytona, then you come out to Orlando. How does your career right now, before you did the podcast, how did your career really develop the need or the want to kind of speak up and amplify law enforcement's voices and provide some real genuine storytelling?
I was giving it all I had, I joke, but we all work for the government. You can give the government, whether it be local or federal or military, all you have, but at the end of the day, you are just a number. And I'm not trying to sound cynical, and I'm not trying to say the government's out to get you, but you have to understand that when you give yourself 110% to the government, they can turn around and just give you the big green weenie, and that's it. That's life. So, I was on street crimes, and I was on SWAT, and I was doing all this stuff, and then of course, the agency that I worked for made a decision for me that I didn't care too much for, and so I just was like, well, I got some free time. I started a podcast. I always wanted to start a podcast, but when you work for the government in any way, shape, or form, you're subject to a lot of not free speech that other people get, right?
Absolutely.
So everybody's always timid but I just said fuck it, and I went and did it, and I guess my first goals were an advocacy for specifically law enforcement, and then as it grew, we started talking like 5 or 6 episodes in. We're like talking about PTSD for all first responders and veterans, and we kind of started opening up our demographics and trying to like really narrow down like who we're trying to talk to, because you got those podcasts that are way too general. These are way too general. You're like, I don't even know like who they're trying to reach. And then you have the ones that are very, very specific and very effective, but their growth is not going to be very big. So we decided to create a podcast for first responders and veterans, the culture of people. Even there's tons of people that don't even serve, have never served, and listen to our show because they have family members that serve, or they believe in the same values we do. And it just kind of took off from there.
See, and that's something I did notice because the growth was pretty rapid. So when did you actually start? Because you kind of said it, but we flew right past it. When did you start actually podcasting, and where were you at in the transition, or being in the police officer? What year was this?
2000. The end of. See, we're at the end of 2024 now.
Yeah.
I think it was at the very beginning of 2022. I have been podcasting for 2 years now.
Dude, that's
I think my first
solid.
episode dropped on December 2021. So I just kind of count that as the beginning of 2022.
See, that's fucking solid, dude. I love December. December is my son's birthday and my father's birthday. In fact, a lot of people's birthday, depending on who you ask, maybe even Jesus's birthday. But that's something that, is exciting. So when you decided to go all into this, what was the reservations? Because you brought up something that we're going to expand on, right? Because I fucking love this conversation so much right now already. What was the hesitations to doing that? Because you brought up that talking point of our law enforcement doesn't have the equal rights that of which they protect when it comes to certain, I don't even want to say amendments, because I think it's horseshit anyway. These are God-given rights,
Yeah.
So to me, what was that, and how is it that you not just circumvented, but embraced and leaned into that?
I mean, it's the same thing when we were 18 or 19 years old, them telling us, hey, don't go shit on your president. Granted, we didn't have as much social media as we do now when we were in the military, but they told us that, hey, you can't go talk shit about the president. And we'd be like, why? They're like, because you work for him. That's the way it is. And it's kind of the same thing. And, as a cop, you have, if you say anything that can reflect poorly on the agency that you represent and you wear a uniform for, that's the issue. But however, that's also the private world too. You can't work for a very big company and go out there and have a massive online profile and bring bad publicity to that company. They would fire you. I mean, that's
so funny that you brought that up. I actually know a guy that recently happened to. What up, dude? He knows this. He knows who I said.
So, I mean, but here's the thing is standing up for what's right is there's a huge difference between that and shit talking, right? And venting your frustrations about who you work for, right? So I keep it, for me in particular, I keep it very specific, or not specific, general about law enforcement, right? The culture. I can talk there's tons of cultures in every workforce and every occupation that needs to change. There's advocacy for change everywhere. So the one thing I don't do is I don't address specific problems with the agency that I work for or mention them by name.
I see.
This isn't the podcast isn't my little bitch fest for work. And I've seen podcasts do that. And I was like, I'm not going to do that. No one cares about my little complaints because we all got them. So I was like, this has to stay very, very general. And it has to be cultural issues that need to be addressed specifically for my demographic. And, I want Antihero to be more than me. I want it to carry on, that little green skull I want it to mean something. So, even if I'm not here or we get new hosts, Antihero still continues on, and everybody knows that it's a movement for truth and change. And, I'm not trying to sound too corny, but that was my goal.
No, that's fucking solid, dude. I'm serious because that's something that recently I've embraced, right? There is this powerful thing called our voice. And when we do stand up for what's right instead of just bitch and fucking moan, things happen. Things are possible when you embrace not only your adversity, but you take those necessary steps to overcome it or work through it, I should say. Because that's really where shit really does shine, is when you work through that adversity. And that's such a powerful message, because one of the biggest communities out there is the law enforcement first responder community. And of course, our military community as well is very tied into both of them. A lot of the guys that get out, they want to continue to serve in some capacity. Some that's, the tradition, they serve in the military and then they serve in the police forces or some form of law enforcement. Some, it's just something that they can honestly count on to be there because their morals and ethics have guided them to that point. That's just profound, bro. Like, that's solid to hear. Like, for real. Good. Like all of the kids, like for real. Like, that's for real. That's on business. So when you started the show, okay, and you had this developmental concept, right? And you progressed into, you have a co-host. You're up to how many episodes now?
We just dropped episode 101.
So that's syndication, baby. You're right on track.
Every week. One of the biggest things that when I researched about doing a successful podcast, they said consistency, right? You're asking people for their time. You could at least be on time. So other than Christmas time last year, we did take a Christmas break, just because when you have a syndicate or a podcast or a program, you're always working. People might think like, oh, it's only 2 hours a week. Dude, it's editing on the back end. It's scheduling on the front end. It's, all kinds of shit all the time. So we took a week off last Christmas just to kind of enjoy the holidays. And we might do that this coming year. But
as you should.
Every Monday.
See, that's solid, is consistency. And with support, you got a team. That's something that, I didn't have for many years. And we're really, learning that, as a group of people that have, I want to say, not just the destiny to share, but the opinion, the vision, and the perspective that a lot of us have, it's time that we do unite and unify. And again, that's my corniness. Unite, unify, and amplify, right? How do we do it? By having these kind of conversations, brother. That's what's up. So when you started to actually see your traction, okay, and you started inviting different guests on and having different conversations, what would you say was the best conversation you've had thus far in 101 so far shows?
Ooh, man, that's a good one. I don't know, dude. Best, as far as like most entertaining, most informative, most moving.
Your personal most favorite. Everybody's got one.
Yeah, I don't. I think probably I would have to go with maybe the one with my co-host, where I didn't know at the time that he was going to be my co-host. I had Brent. I don't know if anybody doesn't know. For the first 39 episodes, it was just me. I was the sole host, and I had my co-host Brent on as a guest. And we did one called Delta Force and Cigars, and where he was launching his cigar thing. So I was like, let's get you back on the show. We wore ski masks for some reason. I don't know why. And we smoked cigars. And that was when he goes, in passing, he went, everybody knows Rob O'Neill didn't kill Osama bin Laden. And I go, wait, what? And he goes, yeah, everybody knows that. He didn't kill Osama bin Laden. That changed the trajectory for my show, and I didn't know it. And that point on, it was just, that's where my show needed to go. I was struggling a lot because, finding co-hosts, it's a physical show. I didn't do many remotes. And it's just, I was like, man, I need a co-host. I really need a co-host. And so after that happened, me and Brent shot the Rob O'Neill episode. When Brent still wasn't a part of the podcast, he was just a guest, and that took off. That put us on the map. And I was like, you know what, Brent, I was like, you clearly are an asset to this. You are the next step. into the growth of this podcast, and I asked him to go into business with me, and we've been doing it ever since.
That's fucking beautiful, man. I love that shit. That's the kind of energy that really needs to be proliferated. It was off of a simple comment. Bravo, Neil. Didn't kill BL, baby. Come on. Like, that's something that I think a lot of people do in passing, or like just bro to bro. Like, cut the shit, like, this is what's happening with this, and that's what happened with that. And then it kind of, if it catches you, you're like, holy shit, you know what? Hey, what's up? What's up, big dog? Let's have this dog right here. Come on.
Yeah. It kind of, the veteran community that we know and love is the Black Rifle Coffee Company business. That's it. And their reach, right? They own the veteran community. They own what's put out. They own the narrative. They own the script. That was the first kick in the nuts I think they've ever gotten. And it came from our little measly punk rock podcast. And we weren't organized. We didn't know what we were doing. We didn't know the impacts that we'd have. And calling out Rob O'Neill created a lot of enemies. And there was a lot of you better watch what you're saying, about it got like almost like deep state shit.
No fucking way.
Yeah. And so we were like, no, there was no physical threats of violence. I shouldn't say that, but it was like, hey, you're not going to work with these people. You're not going to get these connections. So me and Brent have had the middle finger up this whole time. We had a guest on called Eric Deming. He was selling no product. He had no social media. He was a SEAL, and he was sick of it. And he came on, and he was the one on our show that was like, fuck Jocko, fuck Chris Kyle, fuck. We're like, damn, dude, like, holy shit, these are our heroes. He's like, they are all scumbags. They're all liars. And he goes, Marcus Luttrell is the biggest one of all of them. And he goes on to tell the real Marcus Luttrell story. That took off. And that wasn't even supposed to happen. We weren't even ready for that. And now you have since seen Marcus Luttrell has gotten his new narrative out there because of being exposed. Because I'm not saying we're the only ones, but this was something that the community has always known. They're like, yeah, we kind of knew he was a pussy and he ran, but we just never say anything. And so when our podcast puts it out to the masses, it kind of lets everybody know, like, hey, yeah, you can, we're not out here trying to kill anybody's way of life or making a living or anything. But if you're going to go and promote these heroes, that's fine. It's on a lie. That's fine. But when our podcast comes in and says something different, don't be mad at us, right?
Exactly. See, that's something too, man, that I've noticed that certain veterans in the community, certain communities, right? These niche groups, niche, oh, fuck it. I don't know how to pronounce that word. That small little group. Those people have, you've called it very perfectly, a headlock on the industry and the perspective and the agenda, as well as the way the entire community is perceived. And that is something that got me so fucking rock hard.
Yeah.
I can't even hold it in. I had to take such a deep breath on saying that, because it was that ringing bell, like what you're saying. Hey, it's okay to stand up and say some shit. Recently, a great friend of mine and a family friend of mine, their image is being used on social media without their permission. People are making t-shirts in his image without his permission or any kind of kickback. And I go, that's kind of I don't want to say the current community as a whole, but it seems to be the current community that is being watched the most, right? And you man, nailed it. Not just with, Marcus Luttrell, the community, the Navy SEAL community, but there's a tremendous amount of communities that are really kind of taking over more and more and more of the I don't want to say just tax dollars, because that's something I get passionate about, right? I think every veteran, every taxpayer should be passionate about, is knowing that the current budget of the VA. Let me go ahead and ask you this. What do you think, Tyler, as a veteran, as a police officer, very well knowledge, you clearly do some great research, because I can't wait to talk about that show you just dropped this morning. What do you think the current VA budget is?
Oh, I have no idea. Their budget?
Ooh, yeah,
you got me stumped.
Yeah, they're
I
annuals.
think I heard the old VA guy that used to work there. He mentioned it on the Sean Ryan show, but I totally forgot it.
It's roughly $360 billion. Okay. Yeah. And then on top of it, it's projected to grow up to 490 to 500 billion by the year 2028 or 2030. I could be wrong about my numbers.
Can I ask you, is that money, is that bill, that money, is that for payout, all the veterans that they pay for disability in college, or is that just what they have to function?
It's both. So it's actually an accumulated fund, which is a great question because there is a lot of a necessary conversation to have to one, not only understand the VA, okay, and its many departments and how it operates, of course, the benefits, the CFR code, how Congress interprets law, how it is perceived in policy and executed through programming, right? Well, the budget is diverse. It's they got VHA, which is your Veteran Health Administration, and then VBA, which is the Veteran Benefits Administration. So through that, you have Veterans Affairs. Okay, there's a piece we're working on right now that it's fucking golden. One of the unique programs in that I'm a part of, and it's something that I've been very hesitant to talk about publicly because it's been known to leverage anything you say and do against you, like a court of law, but without any due process or say so. It's really bad. It's called the Comprehensive Caregiver Program, or the Program of Comprehensive Caregivers in the VA. And their dynamic is such an interesting one. This one specific program increased its budget to roughly $4 billion and then removed roughly 90% of its participants. I don't know how you legitimize a budget that way. But then, come to find out in its own investigation, they targeted minority groups, Black and Hispanics, 40% more often than others. And I was like, that is a very intriguing thing to tell on yourself about in the current climate that we're in. Like Jesus Christ, okay, guy? Like if you're gonna already cook books to the point where, the damn entire Pentagon loses 2 trillion for the past 7 years every year in a row, even fucking pass an audit. But veterans, if they get paid $1 extra, my guy, you're the biggest criminal. And I'm like, yeah, that's the current flavor. And there's a lot of communities that are getting the dominant control in that conversation of saying, hey, oh no, veterans are being taken care of. No, you're being taken care of because you're a part of a very specialized community, a very publicly known community. And you're consuming the vast majority of these people's attentions and dollars through secondary, tertiary nonprofits as well as programs. And I'm the guy, okay, that all of these people say they're going to help. Okay, I am the fucking dude that says, oh, everybody's like invisible wounds. I'm like, hey, how are you? They're like, yeah, fuck off. I'm like, what the fuck? Like, come on, guys, let's play a little bit together. At least you can touch my pee-pee. I'll let you. Like, come on.
Yeah.
But that's something that, you really, I'm not bullshitting you. You fucking, the way you guys do shit ignited a flame back in me that a lot of my guys were like, hey, dude, that's the old guy we want. That's the kind of dude we want back, buddy. Let's fucking pay into that. Let's develop that. Let's put our fucking money where our mouth is with that, Joey. And I was like, fuck yeah. So that's why I was also super excited to have you on, so I can kind of vent a bit like that with you. And then I want to move on to the current stuff that you guys are developing, right? You dropped the show today that, again, re-encourages not just this conversation, but the direction that you've well established yourself in just 2 short years. I don't minimize that, but that's really great. That's a great achievement, right? If me and you had a little bit of talk before we started the show, right, where, here's a little bit of tips and tricks, and, I'll help you out more than you think, I think, honestly, because that's where I'm at in life. I really want to give back and polish things up for you because you're headed in a great trajectory. Those audio stuffs, right? Those are little tips and tricks. But where you're headed is a profound and great trajectory, right? The accomplishments that you've had, the types of conversations you have, and the focus that you have, right? And I love the energy because you said your favorite show was the one that you met your co-host. Isn't that a little bit of a love story? Look at that. Isn't it?
Man, yeah. Me and Brent, we're very, 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 very similar, in the sense of how we view our service to the community, and how we view business, and how we view our, being a man. We're wildly similar. It's funny because me and Brent don't show any emotions towards each other. It's weird. I've never told anybody this, but we don't bro hug. Because if you think about it, a lot of times when people do that, not all of it, not even most of it, but a lot of times when people do the dap up and all that, it's fake. It's not maliciously fake, but you're also you're not like hugging someone out of like I love you, right? You're just you're like, hey, you're doing what is a social norm. Um, there's one picture of me and Brent together by ourselves, and that was staged.
That's
Other
fucking
than that,
hilarious.
there's always someone in the picture, and I challenge anyone to go find there. Like I said, there's one at a concert that was staged. Other than that, there's not one picture with just me and Brent, and it's very weird. But that's just how we work, and I would do anything for him, and and I know he would for me, and so that's just kind of how we keep our business rolling.
Dude, that's fucking beautiful, dude. Shout out, Brent. Like, honestly, that's like some real man love. Straight up stoic love, man love. Not this, faggotry
Yeah, like don't
that
hug
people
me. That
go
shit's
on.
gay, dude.
I know. And that's the thing too. If you're gonna hug, make it mean something. I'm the hugger,
Yeah.
right? But fuck, when people hug me, they go, "Man, that fucking meant something." I go, "Yeah," because believe it or not, I think physical touch, even just hey, a tap on the shoulder or a handshake, you can really tell a lot about a person.
Yes, you're right in the sense that I'm the same way. So I think there's like just people inherently express things differently. When I laugh or respond to somebody or I tell someone something, the touch on the shoulder with the fingertips, or when someone makes a joke and it makes you laugh, and you touch, they look at you like, wow, I really just impacted that person for a couple seconds. Like they're just like staring at you because you touch them. And then we live in a world today where we don't touch each other. And obviously that was not helped by COVID and stuff. But in all reality, we've become a digital age where we don't go have coffee anymore. We don't, we keep up with friends on social media. So we're literally not even meeting people anymore. You're and old friends, like old acquaintances. So when you touch someone on the shoulder and just go, hey, they're like, damn, dude, like this guy's, so I feel you on that.
Yeah, no, that's a great thing to bring up because you're so right, dude. Like, not to, I want to say hyper focus on you and Brent's relationship because it is men's relationship definition incarnate. Like, we're not here to kiss each other's ass, bro. Let's get to fucking work. Let's knock it out. This is what's bonding us. I find that typical in the military community where we don't need a lot of fluff. It's just a straight, I don't know. It's just a straight love that you just can really show and express through action and not necessarily words or touch directly. But you bring up that very solid point that, that is an important factor that we as a community should focus on as a new social standard or normative, right? And be like, dude, it's okay. Like, I know you brought it up. COVID was the thing, okay? And it decimated the United States in more ways than one. And that's a whole nother episode. But in that, we can get back to things like calling people back, following up with people who outreach or outreaching yourself, and just doing the basic things. Like, I'm a horrible person when it comes to cards, like, hey, happy birthday. But I'm a great person in, Facebook, hey, happy birthday, because it's simplified for me, right? But in that, I think the simplification of these routine normatives of just, well, I checked in, they should know that I checked in. Well, that's not necessarily true. There's a lot of things that we found out through 2 election cycles of real censorship and just people like really deleting things and censoring people. I've experienced it more than what I thought I was experiencing it. Even just yesterday, my local news deleted and censored a comment that I made, which was hilarious. Okay. I don't even know why they got offended, but it was hilarious. Other people laughed at it. I laughed at it. It was this quick little story. Okay. I'll tell you about it, right? Everybody loves these stories. A woman in Bates Nut Farm. I don't know if you've ever heard of Bates Nut Farm out here in Valley Center, but a lot of our listeners have because it's in the San Diego region. And it's one of those pumpkin patch places where everybody goes and they have nuts, believe it or not. And they have all these great things. They have like a little, not petting zoo, but a little like zoo. And it's a great place. They have classic car shows, all this good stuff. But while yesterday or the day before, a woman was leaving, hit a dude, and dragged them with her car for like some yardage. And they were covering the story. There was a response. It's an unincorporated area, so things take time. And somebody asked, were they dragged? And they go, yeah, as per our article, kind of like a dick. And I'm like, yeah, were they dragged or did you say they were in drag? And then I posted one of those like drag queens going like, oh my God, queen. And I was just like, dude, why would you delete that? That's hilarious. This is a rare opportunity to make a joke like that. I feel offended. I feel as though they minimize the ability to see the sense of humor in it. But hey, back to topics. What is it that you find that maybe you've experienced, not just in the police forces, right? But in the military, of course. But currently, as you're bringing up these subject matters that are sensitive, right? So I want to kind of jump into your most recent episode here. Something that's going to reflect an actionary thing within the community. I wasn't able to finish it, but it was one of those things I was like, fuck yeah, dude. This is something that I really want to kind of lead for a little bit longer in the conversation. So in this new episode, you guys did a lot more research, and I found it fascinating because a lot of producers don't discuss the back-end production. And knowing that you're a police officer, I can tell you got like a little investigator side to you there, right, bud? So it's one of those things. How did you come to be about this topic? Because I'm going to let you talk about it. And then how did you go about discovery, research, etc.?
Well, luckily I have my co-host that is able to do that. Unfortunately, most people are not able to call out other occupations, right? Like I can't go call out the special forces community, even if I know they're lying, because it's not my place. It's just like when people want reform and they want to talk about how, like cops and police, it's up to me to change that and to bring awareness to that. The Joe Schmo civilian can try all they want, but they really don't have the knowledge. They don't have the insight, and they don't really have a leg to stand on because they're not serving. They're not putting on a uniform. So Brent was the one that kind of took charge on all this. Just phone calls, pure stuff, calling people that Tim Kennedy has claimed was there on all these things. And Tim's very bold. I don't think he's right in the head. And I say that, I'm not joking. After doing all this research, I don't understand how somebody could lie like this with so many loose ends. It's like, I get it. If you're lying and you have it locked in and there's no way people are going to find out and then it gets exposed, that's different. I can see your motive and where you thought you were going to get away with it. He left all loose ends and just lied his ass off. And everybody we called was like, no, none of that happened. These battle stories, completely fabricated in detail, graphic detail, which made Brent upset because there's a lot of veterans that have seen very, very horrible, awful things. And Tim Kennedy may have not even seen any of those things in his life, yet wrote fictional tales about battles where blood and guts were all over his uniform. And again, I'm not saying like this is 98% possible. This is 100% verified by his teammates that Tim has never experienced anything like this. But if you go read his book as a civilian, you'd be like, oh my God, this poor guy is a hero. And everybody in the community is kind of like, yeah, let him. He's a psychopath. We're not going to get involved. Let him do his own thing. But the problem is there's a lot of people that are like, no, that's wrong. Like I've had my buddy's guts, not me personally, but people have said, I've had my buddy's guts all over me and he died and he's dead. And I've seen horrible things that I don't even want to write a book about because I want to get over it. And you got Tim out here writing, again, if it was a fictional tale written by Tom Clancy, it'd be a great book, but it's not. He's claiming it's an autobiography of his experiences. And so that really rubbed Brent the wrong way to a point where it drove him to continue to research for months. And Brent does things the right, just like I do. We do things the right way. Brent called Tim Kennedy. They had a phone call discussion, and Tim Kennedy pretty much blew him off. And so that started Brent. Okay. But he checked that box. I tried to give Tim Kennedy an outlet, no rush. You come on our show whenever you can. Let's talk about this. And Tim Kennedy realized, like, I'm not going to benefit from going on the show and having these guys ask me these tough questions. So, like everybody else, when we call them out, they block us. They don't talk to us. They think it's going to go away.
Dude, that is honestly some of the best shit I've heard, period, ever in the veteran community. I'm almost like, I'm blushing because I'm so fucking excited because it's one of those things that we have to do on repeat. There's a gentleman, can't recall his name. He's a Navy SEAL and he does a YouTube channel, and that's all he does is call people out like the worst of people that are never even. It's called stolen valor, right? That word, and it's something unique to the veteran experience, because you can dress up as a veteran, you could pretend, you could tell stories, and there's legally no ramifications until you commit federal fraud where you're receiving a paid benefit. And even then, it's like, fuck, who's going to give a shit? Because you made
Who's going
everybody...
to charge you? Who's going to see the process through? Yeah.
Exactly. And then here's the back end to that, right? You have credibility. People who have profound credibility, like the gentleman you brought up, Tim Kennedy, right? Marcus Luttrell, they have profound credibility just by a simple title, whether it be a special forces title or, a successful entrepreneur or even now a congressional representative, right? There's a lot of weight behind their words. And when you don't consider the fact that they may skew a perspective of those who need help, right? Like, oh, I never did things like that, so I don't deserve anything. I don't deserve help.
Yes.
And that's something that I find...
That'll kill the humble warrior.
Yeah.
And that will literally kill them. That will make them put a gun in their mouth and pull the trigger, because they feel like they see guys like Tim Kennedy out there, and they just makes them feel like shit. They're struggling with whatever they're struggling with, and they're like, well, fuck it. So that it's because if you look back on it, we have historically, probably every military, but at least in our military, you can look back on the importance of war heroes, the importance of morale building. During war, it's important to have heroes. We've had movies about that. I think Captain America is based off that. At the Gates, the sniper movie, the whole premise is about that. Movie. So even if it's a little fabricated, right? Having a morale icon to keep men moving forwards is different than having it and then these guys still continuing on and making, millions of dollars off lies that are now starting to impact the veteran community. And it's starting to make a worse impact rather than bettering them. And so that's where we're at right now, because I can't say who said it, and it wasn't what do you call that word? Sanctioned. It wasn't it was third party was said about us that said, why you guys better shut these guys down. This person was threatened if they work with us, because these are American icons. America needs this right now, and these guys are trying to ruin that. And that is absolutely not the case. But everybody else is profiting off of these lies. Everybody is. If you look at it, Tim Kennedy, Rob O'Neill, Marcus Luttrell, the three big ones that we've called out for lying.
That's some huge names, dude. That's huge in the veteran community alone, not just in the national community or the world community. That's huge.
They're all tied into that circle of veterans that is essentially Black Rifle Coffee Company, has ties into all of them. If I can break it down for each tie into these guys, but Black Rifle Coffee Company is the conglomerate, the monopoly of the veteran community. What they say goes, because you don't know any different, right? You don't know any different as a vet. This is all you see.
Yeah.
So we come in. It's one of those things too. If we're walking up to the party and you close the door on us, we can walk away, or I can boot that fucking door in, and then I can go, hey, let's have a party now, guys. And they don't like that. So
party's fucking on, bro. Really, party's fucking on, dude.
Yeah, there's nothing they can do about it. We don't need their help. We don't need their money. We don't need their resources. I think we've had two guests on that have had interactions with that side of the house. When I say that side of the house, I mean the Black Rifle Coffee Company and all of their channels, businesses, personalities that work together in that side of the house. We've had two guests on. We've had Eddie Gallagher, who has been on the Drinking Bros podcast, which used to be an official extension of Black Rifle. Now is just a non-associated but associated podcast in that realm. And we had a Marine Raider on just recently. Nick Jones, I think is his name. And he did an episode with, I want to say Black Rifle Coffee Company's podcast, but anyway, we've had two people on that's had, everybody else that we've had on has been people that are just regular everyday people, like regular vets, regular cops. And I don't, because that's what we are. and we don't have this pedestal of, we're the Antihero podcast. We're only going to have big names. You know how much it boosts morale when somebody comes on our podcast that feels like they're a nobody, feels it. That doesn't mean they are. These people are people that have put on a uniform or continue to put on a uniform, and they don't feel special. And they're on the episode after Eddie Gallagher was just in the studio, after Kyle right now. Like, it makes people like, it really brings up morale. Like, holy shit, I'm part of this. And you don't even have to try and create anything. You don't have to fabricate anything. It's a very organic, God-driven thing that we're doing, and I'm very proud of it.
Dude, as you should be. And as a man, I could just say thank you, guys, because it's one of those things that for 12 years, you're right. I happen to know very, very well those gentlemen at that company. In fact, I don't even want to repeat things because of it. There is a profound experience mutually with a lot of people in our network at ADAX ENT, that we have a lot of that taste in our mouth from a lot of those different representatives in our community. That's all I can say. To be fair, I'm a little bit more, private, conversation with stuff like this, because it's not that I don't think people don't deserve to know. I just think that we should have the conversation man to man first with certain people. And you guys do it the right way. You reach out, and if they close that avenue of approach, that's the military standard. Hey, I took it up the chain, even though they're not the fucking chain, right? I attempted to confront. And what's next? We have other words, and we got the fucking tree line. You know what I mean? I don't know if the Army cats, you were in North Carolina, so it might be a North Carolina thing, but we used to take it to the tree line.
The wood line.
The wood line, there you go.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And that's where a lot of issues were settled.
Exactly. You go handle your fucking business man to man. You come out a little bit banged up and bruised, the egos, right? But you come out of it as men genuinely better, right? And that's how truths usually are revealed, okay, in societies and communities. And that's something that I appreciate you standing up on, because being threatened, being rejected or neglected or denied or even ignored, it's something that I have had a wonderful experience with. And I appreciate it, because when me and you had our conversation, just to kind of line things up, I was like, fuck, man, Tyler and Brent got some real fucking balls. That's the meat and potatoes of the community, because you said it. It's not so much about the big names. That's great. It helps lift the voices, but it's those regular Joes, those ones who are too humble. You said earlier, the humble warriors, right? Too humble to step into this space, no, that's horseshit, right? This experience, this veterans suicide rate, right? With fucking hundreds of billions of dollars annually. That's bullshit, right? People in one of the most exclusive and most comprehensive programs can't even get follow-up appointments after falls. That's bullshit, right? That's the kind of shit where I'm like, look, that we wonder why people are fucking starting a 12 gauge. Well, it's this. It's gentlemen like that, the people that you bring up. I use the word lightly, right? But I do still hold value to that standard, whatever. I'm still gay a bit, all right? But when that time comes, right, when it's that moment to say, hey guys, this is where we can still do better. We don't need you. We prefer, yes, for us to all change our habits and our methods of not just coping, but the way that we proliferate our missions and messages right now. The way that we monopolize not just the attention, because that is what creates change, but the way we monopolize the perspectives and opinions of others, and never allow anything to go any which way but that. And it's something that I see in the nonprofit space grotesquely much. It's something I see, of course, you bring it up in the corporate space, but I even see it in the government space, where these ratings, like, oh no, the VA's got a 90-something% approval rate. I'm like, who the fuck are they talking to? Which people are they asking? Like, just the Medal of Honor recipients? Because they do get their assholes licked every fucking where they go. I get it, right? That's kind of a big deal. I'm not going to lie to you. But, that's the smallest demographic and persons that of which we should be proud of serving, because it's kind of on the nose, right? We should be doing that. What about the common guy? Those invisible wounds that we ignore. What about the people, these first responders, these police officers, these firefighters, these ambulance drivers and paramedics that are sucking fucking shotgun slugs to the dome because they don't feel good enough to ask for fucking help? Are you kidding me? And these gentlemen are fucking laying their heads down, sleeping like there's no fucking problem, right? Nothing. They're making hand over fist money. They're getting the best type of interviews with the best type of people that could actually proliferate a change and a shift in the community for the better. And it's revealing. That's the actual part of what we're at. It's revealing. Gentlemen like yourself, gentlemen like Brent, gentlemen like ourselves here at 8Ax ENT and the Devil Doc Talk Show. That's our passion. So much so that I'm going to have to plug, okay? Because you brought up there's movies, there's stories, there's this, right? Well, me and Mike Vinn at the Comedy Store in La Jolla, he's a veteran as well in the Marine Corps. We launched this project. It's going to be called Heroes, Untold Stories of, right? And that's going to be the larger scope of what we're doing. But our first season is going to be Heroes, the Untold Stories of Medals of Valor. That's not just isolating one, but all of them, especially if there's a valorous, I think that's the word, a Valerie attachment to it. There's a lot of things in the military that people don't know. And I think it starts with the basic knowledge, right? These are some of the ranking systems. These are the roles and responsibilities. These are the positions that we fill. These are the jobs that we do. And these are some of the most revered gentlemen and ladies that have ever served. And that is the standard, not these. I'm not going to use a negative word. I said this in a prayer this morning. Okay. Not these people, not these people that currently are, again, have a headlock in what the current agenda and circumstance is. Man, that's so fucking exciting, man. And so I want to go a little bit further in for yourself, right? As a police officer, and as a podcaster, as an Army veteran, right? Where do you see yourself in the next few years? Let's start with 1 to 2 and then maybe 5 to 10.
Well, I'm definitely, I realize that you do hit a point in service, whether it be military or cops or firefighters, where you realize if you get into business, you look at the two models and you're like, what the fuck have I been doing the last 20 years? Nothing makes sense. Nothing the government does makes any sense. There's no big picture success plans. It's literally service and then politics above it. Pick your rank. You have your grunts, your boots, the guys, and then at some point in some rank, in some branch, it becomes politics. And there's that huge divide. And the guy in the boots on the ground can't do anything to change it. There's nothing they can do. There's no unions. Police are losing their union power by the day. So you kind of look at it and you go, okay, well, I'm glad I served my community. I'm glad I served my country, but I am probably, going to be done with this business model because it makes no sense. And I'm going to start focusing on the way I can do business and impact in a very much more positive way on my terms. And I can make money doing it, right? This is Antihero is not is not a nonprofit. My kid's about to fall. Do not grab that. You don't have any life jackets on. Sorry.
Gotta make that money and also be a dad. I get it.
You can come sit down and play on your tablet, bud. But all right, but don't be reaching in the pool for balls. Anyway, sorry.
No, that's solid. I get your prioritization. I am equally right there with you. Don't let that dude fall in the fucking pool, please.
Well, it's cold here. I don't want to have to go in and get him. But yeah, it's just that. So now that's how I kind of look at everything now. So will I be a police officer for very much longer? Probably not. I am a human. I have worked for the government my entire life, except for my break in college, which was funded by the government. I don't know what it's like to be an entrepreneur and live off your successes. And when things hit like COVID, your family suffers because you can't provide. That's a very scary thing for me. So I've always had that government blanket to fall on and that government type stuff. So I am probably not going to be a police officer in the next couple of years. I will retire a little early. And then, like I said, the podcast is going to continue to do its thing. I imagine we'll probably face lawsuits, because people don't like being called out, and do what we can. Me and Brent both have our own personal businesses that we run outside of the podcast. I have an apparel line called Refracted Wolf Apparel, and Brent has First Responders Coffee and Cigar Company. And so, we focus on them too. But the problem, it's not a problem, it's a blessing. Antihero is very successful, and we didn't really try to be this successful. We were just two real dudes, and we didn't sell out, and we didn't care what anybody thought about us, and that's kind of how it works. I'm a firm believer. If someone says I wouldn't do that, do that. As long as you're not harming anybody, as long as no one's negatively impacted by it, that's innocent, do it. Because when people say I wouldn't do that, that means that no one's doing it, right? So right there, already, that's a plus. No one's doing it. So your chances of success at this thing are way higher now. Your chances of being seen doing this thing are way higher now because no one's doing it. So I wouldn't call that person out. I'm immediately going to call that person out now. I don't even know who they are, but I'm going to go research them and call them out because you said not to. Because it's not a defiant asshole punk rock thing of me. I'm just saying, like, that makes sense. I'm going to go the route that no one's going. So
that's also going to be the path of least resistance, even though it's going to be an uncommon type of resistance. I think that's the thing.
You're absolutely right. If 100 people are piling in a door all day, every day,
just rat fucking,
they're going to have that door reinforced, and they're going to be selecting who comes through it. If you go find your own door, it's wide open for you to walk through, and everything's for the taking.
Exactly.
Right. So,
like these choke points, these funnel points, we were literally trained. Don't sit in that shit. Okay, don't be on the X. Okay, get the fuck. Like, hey man, I'm a corpsman. I'm a FF corpsman. I had to learn all this shit. I didn't get to actually apply it. So when we talk about blood and guts and whatever, my thing was a FRIS, an STP. That's all we did. All right, it's a shock trauma platoon. That's what it historically is. But when you go into it thinking that, hey man, we can take the same skills and assets, we are right. Nobody's doing medicine this way. Then maybe we should be doing it fucking differently. Nobody's running the VA this way. Well, then maybe we should fucking look at. Come on, let's rinse, wash, and repeat what the guy said.
Unfortunately, the VA is a government.
It is.
So people, it's like anything in the government. If it's not their idea, they don't care. So, here's my take on the VA. I'll take him for what they'll give me. Great. It's good pocket change. If you want the best care and you have the ability to not use the VA, I would suggest not using the VA. Not you personally, but I'm saying like any listener. You do not rely on the government. The government's not here for you. The government won't save you. The government's not going to give you the best it can. So the VA is the same way. I'm a firm believer that the VA needs to be giving its funding to different methods and private providers, right? If somebody wants to fucking dose on shrooms and it helps them, it doesn't help me. That's their thing. Let them do that, right? And I always say this, I don't smoke weed or take drugs, but that's got to be healthier than a handle a night. You're allowed to drink. You're allowed to drink a handle a night, but
pop pills. That's the thing. That's what's killing us.
And we're not even talking big pharma, like you said about COVID. That's its own episode. We could talk about big pharma for days, and how natural remedies have for hundreds of years have been the solution, and the last 100 years have been the censored solution, because people are going, if well as I do, if people are going to lose money, they're going to cause you problems, right? If you're going to go poke the bear and people's wallets are going to get a little lighter, that's where you're going to find, and you're doing it right. If people are like looking at you and turning their heads at you and going, whoa, what's he doing? You're doing something right.
Exactly. See, and that's a two-parter, right? Let's follow it up with the success story after that. Get their attention about the problem that you can isolate, show, analyze, provide data, analytical, all the statistical variances. I'm a geek when it comes to that. And then hit them hard with the fucking solution and be like, hey, you see that $380 billion, homie? All of it, we could be doing a lot better. Oh my God. Right. And here's the thing. Here's the actual problem with it. All of what you just brought up is possible. There's programs within the VA, but the VA has strategized itself to limit what we can do under not just perception, but through insidious means. So like the community it's called the community program, right? So you can go out in town. Donald Trump was really good at this, when he was president. Yeah. And you can get your doctor and whoever you want to see. I live far away from any VA. on purpose. Okay. And the problem with that is that even in my local community, I can't find anybody to serve what my needs are because the VA won't allow it. Right. I'm a little bit more fortunate that I do have Medicare, but I do not know how to use it. And then so when I try to get the VA to do the right job, that being that I want to say that squeaky wheel because I know what's right and wrong. I find that they are routinely doing things in an insidious manner, in a deceptive, and the worst ways, right? Saying, oh yeah, we're making it all available, but then they're actually implementing some backdoor policies that actually restrict the availability. So the time frames are way off. Oh, well, you can go to the community care, but it's going to take 3 months to approve that. Or you can wait a month, which is still beyond standard. Okay, wait more than a month, which is still beyond standard. Okay, again, I'm going to say it again. Wait for longer than a month because it isn't even standard. And they're proud of this.
Yeah, I mean, but again, that goes back to what I was saying. If one is going to rely on the government to help them, that's almost what they get. And I the way I do it is if someone needs to go hustle and work a little bit harder to get better care, then that's what you got to do. If you're going to rely on the government to think that and when I say you, I don't mean you. I just mean like I'm talking to like one person in particular. Like,
no, bro, I feel you.
Yeah. Like if you think the government's going to make you special, you better go get a Medal of Honor, right? That's how you're going to be
and
special.
Not even then. It's like it's a fucking horse show, bro. It's nuts.
And so we partnered. The reason why is I got really into researching ketamine, which I've never done, but I've been on TRT forever, and that changed my life. And so I knew my family doctor wasn't prescribe it. The VA wasn't prescribing at the time. Still won't give guys testosterone. It's not the answer for everybody, right? Testosterone might not be the answer for everybody. I think it is, but I'm not a doctor.
But it's worth the try to look into.
We teamed up with Human Performance Teams, who is veteran and first responder based. And so they give, and I'm not supposed, you don't like saying it, but the owner is a Marine and retired U.S. Marshal. He fought to give private rates the best he could. We're the cheapest TRT and ketamine company out there for first responders and veterans, because it's crazy that the VA knows, in my particular opinion, these things help. And it might not be. You're probably never going to see me doing ketamine. Probably never. But
nobody wants to fall down
my
a
choice.
Yeah, it should be.
That's my choice. And if somebody is somebody, now mind you, there's 99% of the guys who serve are probably more fucked up than me. So that's their choice. If somebody needs it and they want to try it, it needs to be made available to them. Just like weed. Typically I don't. That's not a thing for me. But I'm not an idiot, and I know that is that has saved so many people, and it is better than alcohol, so it needs to be made available. Now, granted, that's a whole other topic, because that's some Joe Rogan research shit, on why
it's
the weed
Joey
industry.
Martinez research shit. I got you, bro. I got it more covered than that guy could ever want to dream.
I know. He said something. I can't ever find it, about how the story about how THC and weed was made into a Schedule I narcotic because of the newspaper industry, like over 100 years ago. And I heard it, and I was like, holy shit. I can't find it now.
There's this whole, okay, let's just tap into it for a brief moment. There's this whole stigmatization about cannabis that was actually caused and derived from systemic racism. Believe it or not, this is the one time I'll agree with it. Okay. And it was this thing that a lot of Mexicans and blacks were using, right? And what it was is there's a movie, I can't remember the name of the movie, but this tactic to call cannabis, because cannabis has been proliferated for a long time. There was tinctures, there was laudanum, which is a cannabis and morphine and alcohol, like medicine back in the Western age. I know it sounds like snake venom, or snake oil. It's not. It's pretty interesting history. So when you look at cannabis, right, and you look at the reasons as to why, it was the hemp age as well, because industrial hemp was revolutionary even at that time. And what you have is a lot of petroleum-based chemical companies that were looking into plastics and how to reutilize the waste products from processing these things, right? So what ended up happening was a competition of both, right? We have all of these things created, and this larger perspective of big pharma, because a lot of chemical drugs are petroleum based, right? And so what we're looking at then, that reason why I bring it up is they shifted even the name to marijuana instead of cannabis, because cannabis was very well known. It was proliferated. People knew it. But then they titled it marijuana, and that sounds Mexican. And let me tell you what, those pearl clutching people in the South, those pearl clutching people everywhere, they used to have them. They were Karens back then, people, trust me. And what happened was that scare tactic worked. Okay. And no matter what we do, it's hard to shift trends in society. It's hard to shift medicines. And in 1913 or 1919, it was either Rockefeller or Rothschilds, one of these guys. They really manipulated their positioning in society. I'm not saying that it's actually practical to the conversation. Hint. But it is, because when you manipulate your positioning with money, you can dominate how things occur, right? So what these gentlemen did, they actually labeled specific things pseudoscience to go in with the pharmacology and the medical practices and education system that they funded and propped up. So the history is actually very profound, and we're seeing the totality of its effects right now. Yet we're the unrelenting again headlock on these topics, right? Other gentlemen have a greater concept and a vast knowledge than I, but one of those things I am severely passionate is different medical modalities. Okay, whether it's be naturopathic, whether it be internal, even spiritual, right? A lot of groups, including one of the guys that are in our network, their main concept is naturally based medicines, whether it be ayahuasca, ibogaine, which is a more synthesized form of iboga, whether it's 5-DMT-MEO or MEO-DMT, sorry. And then you have the, like you said, ketamine. Then you have these different utilizations, because we're already doing things to our veterans that are non-formulary. Okay, we're already doing things that are not normal practice. In fact, they could be classified as non-categorically formula, or in the formulary that would give you a punitive case if anything were to go wrong. And so everybody's considering liability and only practicing towards that. We can say, hey, when you give a guy 5 different psychoactive and psychiatric medications, yet his only problem is PTSD, maybe we don't understand the relationship of PTSD and how certain people process things, right? Maybe we should have the common sense to say, maybe the girl that was raped, and it's a sexual trauma, isn't it comparative to the guy that saw actually blood and guts all over his fucking body and boots and floor? Okay, maybe the victimization isn't the same, because this individual here decided to serve, and it's not necessarily a victim circumstance, but more of a perspective circumstance. Like, why do I get to have kids in a family when this baby was a little blown apart, and this girl's bowels were literally hanging out, and this and that and the third, and we had to blow up hand gloves and little markers to make the little baby stop crying? Like, what is the difference here? You see, there's a concept within trauma that doesn't come from being a victim, that has to be discussed. I know you've probably been on codes or whatever, you guys call it as a police officer, right? And you go through these events that are human trauma, okay? Whether it be, an actual, I don't know, and I'm not trying to bring it up, where you have actually had to utilize your weapon or not, but even in the military, it is very rare actually for any individual, including infantry, to utilize their weapons, okay? Having these type of conversations in depth to really shift not only these perspectives, but the glory and the valor that we give credit and we give weight to, it's something that I am impassioned about, clearly, right? But to get it back onto you a bit, now with the show, you guys are headed in a different way, of course, with Brent in the type of subject matters that you do. What are the type of relationships that you wish to develop, and what type of avenues do you wish to really kind of make the most impact in?
I don't know, man. It's kind of going with the flow, meeting the people that we meet. Everybody that we've had on stays a continued friend. And and they're all about what we're doing. And people that are more in tune with everything go, what is it that you're doing? And I'm like, I have no fucking idea what we're doing, but we're doing it, right? So like it's building a culture. I've always thought that we're building a counter culture, and like against what? Like against everything, right? That blows my mind. People, if you go to the FDA for anything, you're insane. If you for any research, every day I learn more and more and more and more. Why would they destroy our farms? Why would they want farmers out of business? And then you go down a rabbit hole of why. You're like, oh my God. So these,
things start making sense.
They start making sense, and it's almost like the truth is out there. These guys. So there's really vague and broad topics like that, all the way to very specific people. And one of the things we do is we just try to highlight. Again, I'm not using this as a derogatory thing because I am that. Is the everyday guy, the hero, the people that, like we talked about at the beginning. The people that I've had people say, "You want me on your podcast? I'm nobody." And I'm like, don't ever call yourself nobody. That is the number one thing. Never call yourself nobody. That right there alone, you're going down a very dark path if that's the first thing you think when you wake up. You should be like, I have a voice. I want to say things. And so our podcast will never be that way. We'll probably network and branch out to become more of a media company, where we have other shows that have the same message, and kind of go from there. We already have talks about doing the Antihero broadcast. And you asked 5-year plan. That's a 5-year plan. A syndicated show, 9, let's just say 9 to 11, or 10 or 10 to 12 every day live. Where you get your news and your real updates and everything you want in our culture from us, rather than having to listen to the news. So just things like that. That's our big plan. And we don't have any like intentions. Like I'm not out here like, let's build a media company. But if it starts flowing that way and people are like, we love what you're doing, we want to be a part of it. And I'm like, well, it's kind of like going like, we should all party, but we don't have a house. And like you have 40 people just looking around. Somebody's eventually going to go, I'll host it. And then you go party, right? So,
exactly, brother. That's the best shit I could have heard right now, to be honest.
So that's just our goals, man. It's like I said, we're not out there trying to make money. Now, granted, we do have to make money in order, as to keep this going. But we don't. It makes enough money. We get plenty of money. So that being said, we're just trying to make an impact. And I think it was when I said like Antihero needs to be something, because I'm a flawed individual. Like I'm a human being. I'm flawed. You give me enough fame and fortune, I will do exactly what any human being will do, and I will cripple to it. Right? I'm not the divine, So there was I don't know if you're a nerd. I'm a Batman nerd, and so like it was on the other day. My son was watching it, and I just happened to walk by a couple parts. One was when he was like, like this can't be me. This needs to be a symbol. And I was like, oh, that's how that's funny. And then the one quote where it was like you die as a hero or live long enough to see yourself become the villain. That's a fucking true statement. That is 100% true. And if I got 1 million followers in the next 5 years, and I had some wildly, some wild reach that I never expected, and I had the ability to impact people's lives, I would be going to church every single day to humble myself, because that lifestyle and it go into your head, you're only a human being. You're only a human being. That's like, you have to have God in your life. And I'm not trying to go on a thing, but like if you're trying to stay married and every day you had 10 girls messaging you trying to hook up, a human being, if it can only go for so long, you have to like humble yourself. And like I go down a huge rabbit hole with that, but
this is a beautiful conversation. Please keep going, dude. I love it.
So, and that's just when I say Antihero, when I say like I might not be the host of Antihero one day, that could be by choice. That could be not by my choice. That could be by my choice. That could be, for multiple different reasons. I'm too old. I don't want to be. I don't want to be talking anymore. I could have business. We film centrally here in Florida. Brent's had business conversations where it might take him away to Utah for he sells coffee for 6 months. He was like, "What would we do?" And I was like, "Damn, dude, I don't know. We'd have to get a new host for a while, And then that just started like opening our minds to like the show goes on, whether or not the voice, the talking head, is the same person. Is different, and you could say that about real good bands, right? You listen to Van Halen, you almost don't realize you're listening to either Eddie Van Halen or David Lee Roth, right? If I asked you who is that, you'd go, "Oh, that's David Lee Roth." But when you're listening to the songs, you're not thinking who it is. You're listening to Van Halen, right? So it's like the same concept, and hopefully I stay as Antihero forever. I love it, but I'm not an idiot, and I know how,
Success does change
I've seen
people.
those Black Rifle Coffee Company guys without some very dark things about people in that culture when they were good dudes and they get a lot of money and they get a lot of attention and then they become completely different dudes. And I've heard it time and time again about specific people in that. And I was like, well, I'm no better man than they are. So now I can foresee that and I can forecast that. So now I can set parameters in place now. And that's why money isn't an option for us. Me and Brent vow it's never going to be about money. Our sponsorships are super low for the show. And the only reason why they're even is we want to give people the opportunity. We would have 100 sponsors. So we have to we have to put a monetary cap on it. Still extremely low. And, we just take that money and flip it around. And, the cool thing about having a show with not a lot of overhead is that you get to give a lot of that money back because you either give that money back or the government's coming and taking it from you at that time of year. So you pick, right?
Exactly,
so
dude. And that's the thing. Yeah.
A lot of people make like, oh, donations is a shady way to not pay taxes. Like someone's taking that money. It ain't going to be you holding on to it. So you can choose who gets that money or Uncle Sam's going to come and take it for himself.
Exactly.
There's nothing shady about that at all.
It's just it's basic economics, but people put emotions fucking behind things that aren't fucking real, dude. It's like honestly, let's be honest, okay? There has to be a time and point where regardless of what people are taking where, the American people need to say, bitch, where's our fucking return of interest? Because Social Security is drying up. You have us technically looking into World War III because what? Because what? Tell me, what is the return of interest at all about doing any of what we're doing right now wrong? Like, come on. You bring it up, those gentlemen with those corporations and whatnot that are currently successful. I'm not going to say I call things pretty well. I do. Back in the day, we were producing back in 2015 and all this great reach out and stuff, and paths cross. And all I could ever feel was, man, the way they're going to manage this, the way they're going to handle this, it's going to be such a flash in the pan and put a bad taste into people's mouths about the veteran community. And people aren't going to want to help. It's going to be simple. Why would I want to help a bunch of loudmouth fucking cunts that are telling me I'm not fucking good enough because they are telling me what an alpha is and an alpha isn't? Okay, that doesn't make any goddamn sense. Okay, a real man, like you said, between you and Brent, is simple. You're very approachable. You moderate your violence in a capable way, right? But you're also not glorifying it. That's the thing that I find about most gentlemen that haven't really engaged in certain things. They tend to glorify it as if that's kind of the thing to be about. Kind of like when men, like you brought up the women's situation. Some men feel like, oh, look at all these women looking at me and talking to me and blah, look at all this opportunity I got. I'm like, bro, trim is trim. Getting a little piece of strange is fine, but grow the fuck up. Honestly. Like, that was fun when you were a single ass kid. That's when you were supposed to get it out of your system. But the whole goal of that wasn't to fucking find nobody. It was supposed to find a decent human being to fucking marry, do it the right way, get children and have, bear children with, raise them the right way with the great morals and principles. That's what we got to get back to, dude. So even when you bring up, like, yeah, wealth and money does change people when it's founded in fallacy. when it's given in a way where it's truly unearned and undeserving. Because when righteous people earn that type of shit, just like what you said, they go to fucking church, okay? They go to church and they say, Jesus, thank you. They say, Almighty God, I am a humble servant. Show me where to lead. Show me where to step into. Show me who to talk to, what to say and when. Because I am a fucking fuck up and an idiot. Half is me stupid, the other half is retarded. And all I know, like when you actually started out the conversation, when you're like, I was just giving up to Jesus. Give Jesus the wheel. It's one of my favorite songs, right? But when you look at that humility, right? Knowing that, much like that poster back in the day when you see little footprints in the sand and people go, oh no, that was when God was carrying you through your adversity. That's a true statement, man. And us as a community, we have a powerful potential to really initiate change and do these powerful conversations and have a tremendous effect and affect on both the actuality of tangible outcomes as well as the way we develop resources, policy, the way that we communicate, right? You said something earlier that I really want to kind of refocus back on because, we kind of glimpse over your depth of servitude to our nation and to your local community. I want to ask, what does it feel like, right? You're in this space, not just as an officer, as a veteran, but as a person that sees this grander vision of being able to serve and provide, right? As a gentleman, that's a very interesting position in life because not many attain it. It's very, very alluding into the fact. And what we can say is, my question is, as you continue to grow and prosper, what is the type of outlook you have, not just inwardly, but the outward approach you wish to carry forward in not just your development of the show, your apparel, your strategy and your business partners, of course with Brent, but proliferating that actual mission and message?
Well, knowing that we're played in patrol cars, ambulances, team rooms, armories. I mean, you name it. People listen to our show, and it's kind of like really humbling and to know that is what I was supposed to be doing this whole time. That's where God put me. I always wondered why when I put on the uniform and went and do these things, it never worked out. I never was truly happy. I was, I only did my stint in the military because so many things weren't right for me. Law enforcement, I was doing great. And then all of a sudden things weren't working out for me. And I was like, what the fuck's going on? And that is where I give my true service to, is entertaining these dudes. I have a big mouth. I've always had a loud mouth. It's gotten me in trouble. It's gotten me, good things too. And so I'm able to now motivate, make people laugh, give people truth. These are things that people want. And that's my part. If I can keep people pushing to go out there and essentially do the Lord's work and protect the community, protect the country, go to war, go do the things and the jobs that give you the PTSD that 99% of the world doesn't have to even remotely think about because they're out there doing it. If I can be a source that makes them laugh and gives them information, that's the most fulfilling thing I think I could ever ask for.
That's so powerful, brother. We're going to get going here in a little bit, folks, but we want to give Tyler a little bit more of a chance to give any kind of shout outs, plug what any kind of leaks we got going on with them, and just kind of, give us a little sign off.
Yeah. I mean, anybody that's the podcast, shout out to them. And it's super humbling when people say they message us and like, oh, I didn't think you'd message back. And like, dude, I'm just a fucking knuckle dracker like you, man. I tackle crackheads in the streets and, I don't do anything cool. So, but yeah, I mean, if we Antihero, the co-hosts, we both own companies, First Responders Coffee Company and Cigar Company. They give back a lot to first responders. Owned by my co-host, who's a Delta Force operator. His big thing is, when you call 911 here at home, he said it himself, the Delta Force isn't coming. The SEALs aren't coming. Like, as sexy as that all is, they ain't coming here. He's like, your first responders are coming. So he's big on getting them training He's big on getting them more money, because the more money you can dump into that profession, all those professions, the better they're going to be able to serve the community. Um, and then I own Refracted Wolf Apparel, which is just a dope ass t-shirt company, man. So we're a very outsider. You know, you can kind of read our designs and kind of know where we stand as far as everything with that. But you know, it's veteran and first responder owned and operated, um, family owned business. So you know, we kind of make the shirts that it's like grunt style, but for not pussies.
I
You know, isn't
love
that
it.
crazy? Isn't that crazy? You come from the same culture I do.
Yeah.
Grunt, you can sell any. If grunt style can put their logo on civilians who don't even know where the word grunt originated from, you can do anything in life. Like I
Exactly.
remember, like cross rifles and grunt is in their name, and civilian girls are wearing it in pink shirts. Like that's you know that's when you become too big.
There,
So
yeah,
you
there's a
need some
definite shift of
yeah you
meaning.
need some counter apparel companies to come in and try to break up that monopoly.
Oh, absolutely. You know, some of the best stories in life have been told by heroes and heels, right? I love WWF. Okay. What we learned was sometimes that's the only way a story can be told. And I think we're in that phase of our community where our cultures are begging for truth because we keep seeing the same quote unquote representatives of our community and going, so why hasn't shit changed, homie? I thought you were
Yep.
working on this. You know, if you're everything you say you were and everything you say you are, why hasn't anything kind of changed? And why are you playing along with the very people, like that villain comment, right? Why are you playing along with the very people creating the problems to begin with?
Well, and here's the thing too. If you look up, if you respect someone, right? You respect someone's outlook on life, their background, their reputation, and then they go, "Hey, dude, I'm a giant piece of shit. Don't listen to me." You're still going to listen to them, right? You're still going to listen to their opinion, you know, when they say something, as opposed to just in general, the people you're supposed to listen to that they put on this facade. You know, they're probably some of the worst people. Uh, Heads of cabinets, administrators, politicians, our upper echelons, and all of our military and our first responder worlds. They're 90% awful people, and they want control. And that's why I'm not anti-government. Don't get me wrong, man. I'm not some kind of sovereign citizen. I am very pro little government. Um, and so that's kind of where my apparel line kind of kicks in. And then, you know, people will, how are you a cop, man? I'm a police officer. I'm a sheriff's deputy. To be particular, I am literally appointed by the people. I am appointed by the people to keep the social contract theory in place. That being said, if someone burglarizes your shed, you can't go find them and beat the fuck out of them. All right. You can't. You'll go to jail. You elect a sheriff, or you elect city representation that hires a chief who then hires people on your behalf as society to do justice for you because you're not allowed to. That's the way I look at being a cop. I will never enforce anything by the government because I don't work for the government. The government kicks me money because the people demand that the government pay for me, right? But the people demand the government pay for my job. The government doesn't pay me to do their job. And
Exactly.
once you explain that to people, you get a lot of barriers that come down who have had bad experiences with cops. And you're like, wait a minute. So you work for me? Like, yeah, essentially. Yeah, the social contract theory is something that's very important to me because if you get 12 dudes or 12 people and you throw them in a tribe, you have to establish order and rules. Or if you want to survive as a tribe and blossom into a culture, right? But everyone's always had the social contract theory, the do's and don'ts, the what is acceptable, what is not acceptable to live in a community. And you need people to enforce those. They used to be called shires back in the day. Shire reeves were the people that enforced that. Shire reeves turned into sheriff, right? It's all policing has an amazing culture and history behind what is it's looked at now and demonized, you know, and a lot of great people are cops. and there's been a lot of cops that I've met personally that they put their personal lives on the back burner to be the best cop they can, in which they turn into the anti-hero. They might not be the best husband, they might not be the best dad, but they may be pieces of shit when it comes to personality. But goddamn, they're a good cop. They'll solve your case, right? And it's a classic, detective drinking his whiskey. I got to solve this case, and he lives in a dark 1-bedroom apartment, and so but they're really good at their job. You look at people that have served in the military, I know tons of people that were willing to die every deployment that they went on, SOF or not, right? SOF or regular military. Their home lives are awful. They don't know their kids. They've been divorced twice. They come home. And that's really where the issue of reintegrating back into the world, like regular world, is stuff like that.
Today at 2:40.
That is so true, man. That is so solid and true, because what you're looking at is an actual breakdown of how society was structured, how it developed, and how the people literally delegated these responsibilities. It didn't remove people, here I'm going to say it very loudly, it did not remove your obligations or responsibilities. It just delegated it for specific roles. Like he just broke down for you. You can't go kick somebody's door in after they rob you and be like, give me my shit back, bro. Not going to work out for you. Not going to be fun.
Yeah.
Where I'm at in California, it's a lot more strict with everything. Like literally, it has to be, oh my God, they were literally threatening my life right there in the moment, and I returned whatever fire was already coming in. It's like almost as bad as combat was for a lot of my bros. They were like, yeah, dude, you actually had to wait, not just for was it indirect fire, but you had to wait for direct small arms fire, and then you could react to it. And I'm like, well, that's fucking stupid. But I think it's horrible, some of the things that society puts us through, including yourself, as, having to establish that role when it should be understood and educated and, not just available for education, but something where society goes, hey, this is the roles and responsibilities of your representatives. Let's hold them accountable, right? Then that way it gives you guys a little bit of a fucking break, because we're like, hey, we didn't need to call you about some dumb shit. We could have just handled ourselves. We could be actually getting people back home with their families, reducing those stressors, reducing those stuck points for gentlemen, like around cases. And society has a great way of reflecting about how shift is coming. But at the same time, it is our responsibility as men, as women, as society's members and citizens to stand up and say exactly what you guys are doing at the Antihero podcast and saying, hey, there's a difference between right and wrong. I am not the best, nor am I the answer. I'm a fuck up. I put my hands up and say, yeah, sure. But at the same time, I see things that I can definitely fucking fix, and I'm walking that path. Dude, that's so powerful, dude. Okay, so let me go ahead and ask you directly, what are the links that we could click, and is it the Antihero podcast, or is it Antihero? How do we work this out?
Yeah, so it's the Antihero podcast. Antihero is one word, no hyphen. That's a human. And if you can't find us, I've heard people find us immediately. I've heard some people looked and they couldn't find us. Right. So I don't know if we're banned on some platforms. I wouldn't think we are. We keep it very general. We don't target anybody, but it's possible. And then FRCC for first responders, cigars, and coffee, frcc.com or Instagram handle FRCC. And then Refracted Wolf Apparel is my apparel line. And, that's essentially we're still wolves, Jay, like you're a wolf, but you choose to do right by society, right? You have the capability to go do harm if you wanted to, right? Your family doesn't need a sheepdog at the door peeking out with his 9mm, hoping that no one comes. Your family needs a wolf, and so you just are. Sometimes when we're young men, hold on one second, buddy. We're not going to put the giant inflatable whale in the pool every day, okay? Because then I have to go get it out. But in society, when we're younger men, we're reckless. We might not have the best moral compass, but at the end of the day, wolves have to refract back to being good. And so that's where the concept of that t-shirt company, but that's refractedwolfapparel.com or Refracted Wolf Apparel on Instagram.
Dude, that's so solid. I'm so stoked, brother. All right, man, we're going to leave it off there, folks. Thank you, Tyler Hoover, for everything that you do out at Antihero Podcast. Thank you for your time today. And we guys got to listen, like, and share the Antihero Podcast. Check them out on YouTube, Instagram, everything that they're available on. Check out their clothing lines, Refracted Wolf. Check out the First Responders Coffee Company and all the things that they got going on with Brent out there in Florida. And be sure to give them a listen, like, and share, and stay tuned.
Internet, hello. This is number 4. And then he's a fin number representing our race number 6 because he asked me a question.